Hi, this is Nick with 10 Bell Pod, and here's 10 facts on Flying Brian Pillman. Brian got his signature raspy voice from a medical condition. Around 2 years old, Brian began having trouble breathing, so his mom took him to the doctor. The doctor found that Brian had polyps growing on his vocal cords. He'd have roughly 30 to 40-ish medical procedures, and all that led to that gruff Brian Pillman voice. Brian's first love was football. He played both sides of the ball in high school and ended up making All-State. Despite this, he received no scholarship offers because of his size, so he ended up having to walk on to the Miami University of Ohio, where he earned a spot and was a badass defensive lineman despite being absurdly undersized for a D1 nose tackle. Brian set school records for tackles for losses. He was a 1982 second-team AP All-American, and after a great college career, he set his sights on the NFL. When he went undrafted, he tried out for his hometown Cincinnati Bengals and ended up making the team in a special teams role. The next season, he was the last man cut for the Buffalo Bills and would go on to the Canadian Football League in '86. There, he would get the first of his major ankle injuries, and while trying to rehab, his friend Kim Wood told him about the Hart family. Pillman started out in Calgary Stampede Wrestling, working on a regular basis with the likes of the Harts, Dynamite and Davey, training in the legendary Hart Dungeon, and of course became fully immersed in the art of the 90s pro wrestling mullet. In WCW, Brian tagged with Stone Cold. Flying Brian and Stunning Steve Austin, which sounds like a vaudeville act, formed the Hollywood Blondes for what is one of the coolest things in both men's careers. They slowly started getting themselves over with awesome in-ring work as well as their funny promos before they were broken up by the WCW office. Brian had a bizarre kayfabe-bending feud with the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, which is one of the first instances of a pro wrestler using a lot of backstage drama, terms, and rumors on air. At Super Brawl 6, Brian met Kevin in a respect you strap match, where you have to beat your opponent until they say they respect you. The two do about 90 seconds of very real looking fighting before Brian grabs the mic and drops, "I respect you, Booker Man," and leaves. This pulled the curtain back, revealing that Kevin Sullivan was WCW Booker, and that pro wrestling booking was a thing at all. Very unheard of for the mid-90s. Brian popped into ECW for a bit. He made a surprise debut and then slowly built up a feud with Shane Douglas that would never actually happen because he went on to sign with WWF. Brian had managed to get mega over in WCW, he magnified it with ECW appearances, and he was about to cash in on all that work by signing with WWF. Then came the devastating car wreck. On April 15, 1996, Pillman was badly injured after falling asleep while driving his Hummer in Kentucky. He was in a coma for a week. He suffered a shattered ankle, forcing the doctors to fuse it together in a fixed walking position. This would force Brian to give up on his high-flying wrestling style and move to more of a ground-based offense. This would turn Brian into one of the biggest what-ifs in wrestling history. In WWF, Brian met back up with his old tag partner Steve Austin for one of the most infamous angles in wrestling history. While Brian was still legit healing, he worked more in a commentary and interviewer capacity. This led to him interviewing Stone Cold October 27, '96, who was locked in a feud with Bret Hart at the time. Brian favored Bret enough to anger Stone Cold, who attacked him, launching them into a feud. This would take us to November 4th Raw and the famous Pillman's Got a Gun bit. On the November 4th, '96 Monday Night Raw, Austin showed up at Brian Pillman's house, who was hobbled by a kayfabe and real-life ankle injury. While WWF interviewer Kevin Kelly and a camera crew set at Pillman's house, Stone Cold broke in, one thing leads to another, and Pillman pulls out a gun on WWF TV. Pillman's career would come full circle a few months before his tragic passing in '97. At WrestleMania 13, he joined the Anti-American Heart Foundation, turning Pillman heel, at least in the States. In '97, over a year after his accident, he started slowly working his way back into the ring. And then July 6, '97 at In Your House 16 Canadian Stampede, he was there in one of the craziest pro wrestling atmospheres ever as the Hart Foundation defeated the American team of Stone Cold, Goldust, Ken Shamrock, and the Legion of Doom. But it's kind of a crazy full circle journey for Brian to be back in the place where it all started for him with some of the wrestlers he started with. For more pro wrestling history, find 10 Bell Pod on your favorite podcast app or find us on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok.